Hello everyone, in this video let us talk about a very common problem faced by almost every IT professional. So if you are into IT, if you are let us say doing something with software development, I'm sure you will be facing this problem of how to stay focused to your main competency, to your main skill. Let us say you are a Java developer, or maybe you are developing mobile apps, for example. If you are in the world of IT, there are so many new technologies, there are so many new things that you must be thinking of learning. So I can also relate to it because whenever I am, let us say, doing something online, maybe if I'm on Twitter, maybe if I'm watching some videos online, there are so many things that keep on distracting me about, let us say, you should, or I actually ask myself, I should be learning Python really well. I should be learning a specific technology like JavaScript based frameworks really well. And I always feel guilty that I don't know these things a lot. And I was thinking of, why not share my thoughts on how to stay focused on your main competency. But at the same time, I also wanted to talk about how to also try out new things, because you may have a specific main competency, but you should always keep on exploring new things. But at the same time, don't let those new things get into the way to a point where it is impacting your work, and it is probably also stopping you from achieving maybe a lot more in your main competency or your main skill. So I can start with giving you my examples, my life examples, my experience. I use few tools and I have some expertise. I can say that I have expertise in a few things. Uh, so talking about things or tools that I use Emacs a lot. I use OR mode in Emacs. I also use Excel and Excel VBA. It's a bit strange, but yeah, that is a reality. I also use Atlassian tools. If you're following my channel or if you know me, I do have this expertise around Atlassian tools. That is, of course, my main work for the past few years. And talking about what operating system I use Fedora, I use uh, Red based operating system like CentOS for, of course, my servers. But I spent majority of my life working on Linux as my main operating system. But at the same time, I also use Mac and Windows a lot. So yes, I work on all the three major operating systems. When it comes to languages, I can code in PHP, I can code in Java, and other C-based languages like uh, Swift, a bit of JavaScript. I have done some work in the past on C and C++, but of course, not really a lot. And of course, I also do scripting in Groovy for my automation work that I have to do for Atlassian tools. For recording videos, I use OBS. I hardly do any editing. If I have to do any editing, I use HitFilm Express. But I am always tempted to learn new things. For example, as I mentioned before, I don't think I know JavaScript and JavaScript based frameworks a lot. And this is something that always bothers me, that I should probably spend some time, maybe a couple of months, learning it and developing something. I can do that, but whether I should do it or not, and how much time I can spend on those things is something that I need to figure out myself. I never really learned or did a lot of work in Python. I also want to learn Vim. although I know that I like using Emacs, I am comfortable using Emacs, but I also want to learn Vim. Not because I'm trying to replace Emacs. I'm very much happy with Emacs, but I cannot really say that Emacs is better than Vim for me. Of course, for me, because I have never used Vim beyond doing basic editing. That is it. Uh, Now the problem is that when you want to learn new things, like let us say if I have to learn Angular or maybe Python or maybe something based on Python or maybe JavaScript, I need to spend a few months of my time. But I don't like tinkering for months. If I have to, let us say, learn something, I will probably spend a weekend, do something, maybe build a small project. Uh, but whenever it comes to learning a new skill, I think there should be two reasons. Either it should be really, really interesting that you want to do. For example, I started working on Drupal because I was trying to solve a problem, and it was also interesting to me. The second reason should be that it should bring some value. So if you're, let us say, doing your job, or maybe you're working for someone, or maybe you have to solve a problem, uh, then you might end up using something that you never thought you will use. For example, I started using Jira because I was asked to. I started working on Excel and creating automation around Excel using VBA because I was asked to when I was working for a company. And to be honest, I didn't really enjoy, working on those tools initially because I was asked to do it. But when I started investing time, I thought I can actually do it really well because I started also enjoying them a bit. Because when you do something over and over again, you become good in it, and you uh, don't really want to let go that experience, that time you spent, and you continue evolving that particular skill. So when I talk about things like my experience working with Jira, Excel based tools, I learned them initially because I was asked to, but as I said, after spending some time with those tools, when I was of course working for a company, for other organizations, I built a competency around those tools, and I thought I can continue, and of course later on focus my entire career around these tools. Of course, at different stages. Right now, I am totally focused on Atlassian tools, but there was a time when I was also doing this Drupal development for many years. I still do it for my own personal websites. I use Drupal a lot, but I also helped other companies doing work with Excel or maybe with Linux based operating system. I used to set up Linux servers for other companies for some time of my life, my early days, my early career uh, years. Now, so what I'm trying to say here is that there were some tools, technologies that I chose to work, but there were some other tools and technologies that I was asked to do. But in the beginning, I didn't really uh, try out something for absolutely no reason. For example, whenever I think about doing a development in Drupal, I'm also tempted to use Drupal as a backend, like headless Drupal, and build my own front end using JavaScript. I really want to do it, but I don't think I will do it unless I have a really keen interest in learning JavaScript to a point that I cannot really think about living without learning JavaScript, or someone is paying me to do it. So I want to do it, but I will probably never spend that much time, like maybe months of my entire year. So if you want to also, let us say, evaluate a new skill or new tool that you want to learn, or maybe you're thinking of learning, my recommendation is that do it in bits and pieces. Maybe spend 2 days, like full 2 days devoted to, let us say, learning something totally new, so that you have enough time to get a feel or taste of how it is like. But after those 2 days, maybe take a break of maybe a week or a two, then come back to that particular small project that you were working on. I actually do that uh, all the time. Like every other month or every other week, I spend maybe a day or two doing something new, because that is how you can learn new things. It is not always totally new. It can be slightly related to what I'm already doing, like maybe in my work, or maybe it is somewhat related to my other skills, my main other skills. But uh, I do try new things. I do spend time, tinkering with these new technologies that I always have in my mind. Let me give you one example. Last year, and I believe in the past 2 years, I also started evaluating and looking at some static site generators. So I spent time working and building a site using Hugo and Grav. So I love working on these two static site generators. To be honest, Grav is not really a static site generator. It is more or less a flat file based CMS, but there is no backend. I mean, there is a backend, but there is no database involved. So I spent time with these two pieces for a few months. I built a couple of websites, my own websites, of course, for experimenting. But eventually, I realized that using Hugo or using Graph was not really fitting in my workflow. And for me, maintaining a simple site using org mode and maintaining a site where I can do a lot of things using Drupal is something that fits me really well. But I'm happy that I was able to spend time, and I learned Hugo and Graph to a point where I'm confident that I can also do it for others. So if you want to learn something, great. Maybe it is really interesting, or if you are trying to learn something because it can bring value in future. Maybe you have a project, maybe you are getting paid for doing some work for someone else, then I think it really gives you satisfaction. For example, I learned building Android app and iOS app because I was getting paid. It was never really my intention to spend like a couple of months learning these things and developing. I don't think I would have developed mobile apps, or I would have, let us say, learned Jira or Excel VBA without a solid reason. So this is all I wanted to share in this video. If you want to uh, stay focused on your main competency, then don't abandon it. Don't really just leave it. Maybe it is a bit frustrating, because whenever you are learning something new, it seems interesting, but it may not be that interesting. So you need to just try out new things in your free time, or maybe uh, devote maybe 2 days every month for doing, like, maybe you can do some kind of a hackathon. Maybe you can just spend those 2 days doing that thing only. And I do that a lot. I spend my weekends, most of my weekends, if like not all of them, but if I'm not really going anywhere else, especially during this time where we have to stay at home, I am actually trying new things a lot. So this is all I wanted to share, because I think it can be really helpful for someone who is always confused with so many technologies and always overwhelmed with what to learn. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video and you learned something new today. Thank you very much.